Alrighty, back to the regular scheduled program of UFC content. Now, for this video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I am still sick, unfortunately. Been sick for a while. Raspy ass voice as well. Apologize, for the, not best quality content, with, the way my voice is and the way I'm going to be sniffling, but it is what it is, gotta get the grind going regardless. Anyways, let's get into the video. I do want to talk about these fighters saying they want to return, and I just don't want to see them. I just don't want to see them return. Seriously, I genuinely don't want to see these fighters return. I think we can all collectively say we don't want to see these fighters return. They've been yapping that they're going to return. They've been yapping they want to make runs in the division. They're just either too old, they're on roids, or it's just too late, and they're irrelevant now, So, that's personally the way I see it. Let's get into the first one who's been yapping a little too much. Jorge Masvidal. Now, he's been talking about how he's going to make a return to the UFC, probably welterweight division. Regardless, can we just pretend this guy doesn't exist? Jorge Masvidal does probably have one of the most underrated early career records, just because a lot of his losses really shouldn't be there. A lot of them are split decisions that are kind of robberies, actually. The Ally Quinta, you have Benson Henderson, you had fucking that guy, really sucks. A lot of split decisions in his career, and that really does suck for Gangbred. And really the only matchup that would be slightly interesting would be Jorge versus Leon Edwards, only because they have beef. Outside of that, there's no reason for Jorge to come back. He would have to be unranked, because he does not deserve the ranked position, having his last 4 fights be losses. Sure, 2 of them are to former champions back-to-back, but in the last 5 years, he hasn't won a single fight. Not just a UFC fight. He hasn't won a boxing match either, right? So that's another thing we got to keep in mind here. He did just lose to Nate Diaz in a boxing fight. You can say robbery, you can say whatever the fuck you want. At the end of the day, I think most people kind of realize he did lose that fight, just because of numbers. He didn't really do a lot of damage either. Yeah, regardless, if you think he won or lost, it still was a shit performance. And Jorge Masvidal, I just think is irrelevant. Like, we don't need him, Like, yeah, he knocked out Ben Askren with a flying knee. We're 6 years removed from that. We can move on now, UFC, We don't have to invest all our time and effort into some of these older fighters who's 40 years fucking old, Who's coming out of knockout losses and then grappling decision losses, Like, ugh, I don't like seeing it, And I don't even dislike Jorge Masvidal. I actually think he was a decent fighter. It's just that he was the decent fighter. That's it. I don't think he deserves a top-ranked opponent. And again, Leon Edwards would be the only interesting one. But that's way too high up the rankings to give some 40-year-old man who's been out of the title competition for fucking 5 years. You know what I mean? Or maybe not title competition, but, he's not fighting for a belt or anything anytime soon. He's lost to the belt too many times. And it's like Leon Edwards, I think, needs a test now. Leon Edwards is at least still, like, a name. He's still young. He's still, like, a former champion in recent history. And he's number 1 in the division, which is kind of crazy. I kind of feel like that's kind of insane to think about, but regardless, I think, yeah, let's not make a number 1 contenders bout with Jorge fucking Masvidal, please. Outside of that, there's not really any beef. He did just lose to Gilbert Burns, who's number 8, and then he's lost to Colby Covington, who's number 9. It's like we don't need to see this. And I think everyone can collectively say Jorge is probably natural, which is good for him, but he probably gets slept by anyone in the division. I don't think it's going to be that big of a competition. I don't think it's like a big question mark. Oh my god, we need to see Jorge. Can he still make it? If Nate Diaz is beating him in boxing, and Jake Paul beat Nate Diaz, you know where my line of thought's going here. Anyways, regardless, don't want to see it. Just retire, Just stay retired. Be retired. Just sit on your Jorge, king of Las Vegas millions. I don't fucking know. Just don't fight again, please. You will be brain mushed. Anyways, moving on to the next one who's been yapping about making a return. A fan favorite, Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Can we not? I've never seen a Cerrone's fight ever. I've like not in terms of like I've seen them, I've watched them back, but I've never seen one live, right? And wow, that loss streak is impressive, you know? And well, he did retire only 3 years ago. Sorry about that, my dog's barking in the background. Might be a dog walking by. Anyways, regardless, yeah, Donald Cerrone, no one needs to see it. No one needs to see him return. He's 41 years old. I know Jim Miller's like 42 or whatever, but I just, like, I don't want to see old men being beat up for no reason. You know, you've been out of the game, you're on roids, you admitted to using roids, we know you're a cheater, they would let you in literally just because you're a name. Can we not promote that in UFC? Can we just say, like, cheaters are bad, and we just, you know, oh, you're on, oh, we caught you on steroids? Sorry, can't let you in, you know? Can we just, like, collectively admit that, you know? And I don't even dislike Cowboy, you know? He's got his beef with Andrew Tate. Maybe make Donald Cerrone versus Andrew Tate for fun, you know? I don't need to see this shit. I don't need to see Donald Cerrone get fucking knocked out in, welterweight or fucking, lightweight if he could make that weight cut again, you know? Especially if you're getting knocked out by Alex fucking Morono, one of the most soy boy built boys in the fucking division, you know? It's just, I just don't want to see it, you know? Just let the old fun fighters retire as they used to, you know? We don't need to see them come back, get chinned, and then it's like, oh my god, he should have never made the return, you know? Look at Henry Cejudo. That guy comes back, a Triple C, now he's on a 3-fight losing streak, absolutely tainted his entire career. Was regarded as one of the best, even in the pound-for-pound, maybe not in the pound-for-pound respect, but was regarded as one of the better fighters of all time, and it's just, now it's just reduced to him being a little nugget who's cringe. But yeah, anyways, don't want to see this ever return. You know, just stay away, you know? Sometimes it's just a young man's game, and you've been removed for a little too long, you know? And I think that's the case with Donald Cerrone. Moving on to the next fighter, we have Nate Diaz saying that he's going to make a run after losing to Jake Paul in boxing. And yeah, you can say, well, he never took it seriously. Who's to say he takes MMA fighting seriously? He wobbled Leon Edwards and then didn't bother going for the finish when he knew he was down rounds. His brain is just mush, you know? 39 years old, not even like a horrible, horrible age to be an unranked UFC fighter, but Nate Diaz would be looking for big fights, and they'd probably try to get him on a big contract. Talking about Nate Diaz's team, not necessarily UFC. You know, if UFC wants any of these guys back, they're going to be asking for $250,000 each. There's no way they're getting anything less than $250,000 to fight. That's just the way I see it. I don't think any of them are going to ask for anything less than $250,000. You know, and I think there's some young talent coming up that either deserve a pay raise, you know, like a Carlos Prates, like a Gene Silva, you know. I think there's fighters like that deserve a little bit of a raise. And sometimes, you know, you just need to let old fighters go. But yeah, anyways, the last fighter that I think should stay retired and should not return to the UFC is Conor McGregor. Now, the reason for this is pretty obvious because of the court cases and everything. But on top of that, he's admitted to using steroids. He's admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs while being off with his broken knee, or broken leg that Dustin Poirier shattered. And we all know if Conor McGregor does make a return, it would be against a top-level opponent. He would just get knocked out. And it's sad to say, and it's not even Conor McGregor's old, but it's just like, he really just does have the vibe that he doesn't fight. In the last 5 years, he's lost twice. He's beat Donald fucking Cerrone, who is on this list. And outside of that, he was kind of just like a left hook merchant, you know? Skill for skill, he wasn't the worst fighter ever, but he wasn't like a championship level fighter. He got lucky with knocking out Jose Aldo, lost to Nate Diaz, which is pretty funny, after beating Jose Aldo. Then he fights Nate, or sorry, yeah, then he fights Nate Diaz for the fight back, gets a win, congrats, and then he decides to go to the lightweight belt, which is, okay, double champion status, I get it, that's his name, and for sure, he's a big influence on the entire sport. Eddie Alvarez is probably the worst, or one of the worst, lightweight champions ever. He won the belt off of Justin Gaethje, which I still can't understand how Justin Gaethje lost that fight to Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez does kind of just suck. I've watched a lot of his fights. He doesn't have really great technique. He's a small nugget of a man. He's kind of like a low IQ Chinny Chandler. No idea how this guy got the belt. Or maybe a slightly better IQ Chinny Chandler. Maybe that's the way to look at Eddie Alvarez. But regardless, yeah, he whooped Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez looks like he didn't even belong in the UFC. And then he takes a little bit of a break, comes back after a boxing match. Yeah, we all know the story of Conor McGregor here. It's just, he doesn't seem like he's even training anymore. And I know it's like, oh, but he posts training videos and all this other shit. If he trains once a week, I get that, right? But I'm saying, like, it doesn't seem like he's in training camps. It doesn't seem like he's like, oh, shit, I'm coming up for the Islam fight. I'm going to fight for that fight, and I'm going to get that fight, and I'm going to work my ass off to get that fight. He's not doing that. He's not promoting anything about coming back to the UFC in a serious manner. Like, he's talking about fighting, like, welterweight champions and middleweight champions, like, calling out Alex Pereira. Like, come on, little bro, pipe down. We all know. You're 5'8", you're my height. Okay, little bro. You gotta sit down and let the big boys do the talking, alright? So, it is what it is for Conor McGregor, the Irishman. I'm not Irish, but I am ginger, so I share something in common with this boy, with this lad. Definitely not gonna be his fucking court cases that I share in common with him. That's for sure. Stupid. Like, I don't even know. That whole situation's like a whole nother fucking video, to be honest with you. It's just a weird situation. I'm not gonna say he's right or wrong. I'm not gonna say court system's right or wrong. I don't give a fuck. It's just a weird situation. Regardless, yeah, I personally don't want to see Conor McGregor return. He had his time in the spotlight. He made the sport really big almost 10 years ago. And now it's one of the biggest combat sports of all time. Might one day surpass boxing because of Conor McGregor. But skill for skill, he can't keep up with a lot of people in lightweight. Just being honest, I don't know if he beats a Renato Moicano. I don't know if he beats even a Beneil Dariush, and I know a lot of people are like, Beneil got slept by this guy, nah, right? I get that. But, yeah, Beneil's got good grappling. He out-wrestled Cerrone, and he could probably out-grapple Conor McGregor. Renato Moicano's got probably the best MMA grappling in the entire division. Fizie's a dangerous striker. Fizie would probably whoop Conor McGregor's ass. But all these names aren't names that Conor's going to be looking to fight. He's going to be looking... I think Dan Hooker's the realistic one, but he'd be looking for Max Holloway or like an Islam. They're not going to do Dustin Poirier 3, although that'd be a crazy paycheck for Dustin Poirier. It's just a waste of time, in my opinion. We don't need these fighters. We don't need them in the UFC anymore. They had their time. They had their eras. They had their aura. Now it's gone. Now it's time we move on. That's the way I think about it. That's the way I think the UFC should take these fighters moving forward. With my dog yapping in the background, I gotta go take care of him. So with all that being said, I want to thank you for watching this video. And as always, I hope you have a good day.